I'm new to sports television.
You're very good, Katie.
Thank you. That was really nice of you.
Your heart got fluttered, huh?
Yeah, just a little.
You're very comfortable doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
You're relaxed, you're in jeans, a nice blouse, etc. You know, your hair looks good because you got slaves that do your hair. Now, that's the one big difference between men and women in the business.
We have to be attractive.
Yeah, you have to be attractive.
You don't. I mean, you are, but like men don't.
What did you say?
I said you're attractive.
Hold it. Hold it, stop. I'm Jewish. Say that again.
You're attractive.
Oh my God.
You're an attractive man, Larry. You know.
So in other words, you're saying, in a sense, if I were younger, yes?
We would date. Katie Nolan, and that, of course, was Larry King. You may notice we aren't in our normal studio this week, and that's because we are off. Obviously, we had to celebrate Independence Week. We beat the aliens again, guys. Yeah. Go us. Anyway, when we're off, we usually give you guys what they call in the biz a clip show. But this time, we said, nay. Nay. You guys deserve more than that. And lucky for you, we had the legendary Larry King in for what we thought was going to be a normal interview. But as Larry does, he just kept telling us his amazing stories and hilarious thoughts on life, so we turned it into an entire show. Some of the most amazing stories he told were about his involvement in the O.J. Simpson trial, which is all anyone's been talking about lately. He told me what it was like knowing O.J., dating women working on both sides of the trial at the same time, and when O.J. called into his show on live TV the day after the verdict. What was I doing during the trial, you ask? You know, pretty much same stuff. And I was only 8, so arguably even more impressive. You've covered so many huge news stories throughout your career, obviously, and a lot of them in sports. For me, one of the most fascinating things I'd love to hear you talk about, you were live during the white Bronco chase.
Well, it's a wild story. First, I'm in Washington. Yeah. I know O.J. a long time. Naturally, I was shocked at the death of his wife. And that was a big story. And then, of course, leading up to the fact that he's now run away, I'm in Washington doing my show. And as we were talking, they cut into my ear and they said, O.J.'s on the road. So they put a map in front of me. And I'm in Washington for exactly 2 hours talking as his car was moving. And once I had to go to the bathroom, so I just said, I got to go to the bathroom, I'll be right back, follow the car. You know, I always believed in that in broadcasting. It was a tumultuous time, you know, he was going to shoot himself. And then, of course, that led to me going out to LA, and we broadcast from that trial, every day of that trial. We had panel discussions, and I wound up knowing every individual connected with the trial, prosecution and defense. I was really a part of it. Have dinner at night with Shapiro and then covered a trial the next day, and I was dating, single at the time, and I was dating both the jury consultant for O.J. and the press representative for the prosecution. 2 girlfriends? Yeah, I wasn't serious. It was just, we dated, but it was really funny. I would send messages to O.J. through the jury consultant, and then the press consultant for the prosecution would tell me what they were planning. It was insane. I went to Judge Ito. Judge Ito invited me to come to the trial one day and to spend some time with him. And I took my daughter, and he took a recess in the trial, called a recess, and he went into his office, and I sat there with him. He had clippings from all over the country about the trial and everything. It was very interesting. So finally I looked at my watch, I said, you know, we've been here like 45 minutes. I said, well, should we go back? He said, I'm the judge. I'll decide when we go back. Okay. Now we decide, all right, we're gonna go back. He's walking, I'm walking. And I made a wrong turn. I should have gone that way to the elevator, but I made this way. I'm in the courtroom. And what happened is whenever that door opened to the courtroom, TV would go live. Because that was Judge Ito's entrance. So it's kind of, people are watching, the door opens and Larry King walks out. As I walk out, O.J. yells, "Hey, Larry!" So I go over, and then someone mentions to me, you gotta say hello to the other side. So I shake hands with O.J., I walk around, shake hands with Marcia Clark. I'm waving to the people sitting watching the trial. And I go downstairs, and that trial was so bizarre that like 30 reporters now converge upon me. What did he say? What he said? He said hello. Yeah, hello. Was he happy? Was he sad? How did he say? Was he depressed? He just said hello. It was funny.
You were very involved in that trial.
Very. We did great panels, and then the night after the verdict, Johnny Cochran was my guest. I got very friendly with Johnny, a great guy. And O.J. called in.
Yeah, I remember that.
And we have a funny, only in television story. O.J. calls in at 8 minutes to 10. I go off at 10. But I got O.J. on the phone and Cochran sitting there the night after the trial. The producers in the control room get a call from Atlanta, CNN. They said, he's running over. I know he can't run over. We've got a whole special coming all about O.J. And the producer says, he's on live right now. Get him off, we got a special coming. Only in television.
I know. So, I mean, what's going through your mind when he called in? What do you do in that situation?
Well, I'm a broadcaster.
I know.
I ask
so
questions.
Good at it.
He wasn't ready to answer some, but he did answer a question that a caller had called in to Johnny. And the caller asked, who brought the travel case when O.J. was going to Chicago to the limo? Who brought that out of the door? And Johnny Cochran said, I don't know who brought it out the door. O.J. called in to say he brought it out the door. He carried his own luggage. I feel very sorry for O.J. In some ways, it's hard to feel sorry, but he's an enigma. And the part that I feel sorry about is that I don't quite get it. By that I mean, I'm beginning to think there's a lot of stories in L.A. that O.J. might have had that CTE. And you won't know, of course, till he dies. But he'd been hit a lot of times. And he'd hit the ground a lot of times. And one of the ways that people with that later on get is immediate anger, and then they calm down. They turn into drugs a lot, those victims of it. The NFL has done a terrible job in not only policing it, but begging down from it and not paying enough attention to it, in my opinion. The movie Concussion was a great movie. Because the enigma part to him. O.J. was captain of every team he ever played on, high school, college, pro. He never got into an argument with an official, ever. Never raised his voice. His teammates adored him and went to him for advice on life. You think I should do this, O.J.? What would you do? Popular guy, everyone team liked. His secretary, who I knew, was with him for many years, never saw him raise his voice.
So do you think?
So what I think is, he had a tumultuous marriage, and that something, after being married a while, quitting football. So if I were dramatizing the scene, I think he came upon it. He was angry because she didn't let him sit at the recital. He had his daughter's recital. He had to stand in the back. Because over her house, he might have had some cocaine or something. I don't know that, but he comes upon this scene. She's in kind of a nightgown. The waiter is bringing her glasses. He loses it.
That's what you think?
He just plain lost it. Did he go there planning to kill her? Why would he? He wasn't sweating. He wasn't nervous.
Couldn't that mean he's just a psychopath?
Could be that. Could be a psycho. But the early O.J., a very nice guy.
Yeah.
So if he was a sociopath, he was a brilliant sociopath.
Sometimes they are.
Sometimes they are.
What do you think about all the renewed interest now in his trial?
Well, that's amazing. First, I can't believe it was 20 years ago. I did the movie.
Yeah.
And I was the only one in the movie who played himself. It was very interesting because the writer told me they had a conference and they were casting, and they said, well, who's going to play Larry King? And someone said, why not Larry King? So I had to do 6 scenes, and it was 20 years ago, so they made a wig for me. A gorgeous wig. I didn't realize I had more hair there. They got my same glasses that I wore then. They got shirts they spent a fortune. The wig cost $7,500. The night I was there, the San Antonio Spurs were there. About 8 of the Spurs were there.
Yep.
Touch me again.
Welcome back to Garbage Time, ladies. For those of you just joining us, I'm Katie Nolan, and I'm standing up for this entire episode. That's a thing I've never Never done before. Something else I've never done before is interview the master of interviews himself, Larry King. So we're going to show you some more of when we blacked out our studio a few weeks ago and tried to look super professional to interview him. It worked. Larry has been a broadcast icon for decades, and he's been a fan and student of sports and pop culture for longer than that. He's had a front row seat to the changes and evolutions of media for almost 70 years. And as I found out, there are some new things he loves and some that he can't quite understand. Things are very different now from they were when, especially in sports. There's been a lot of developments in sports throughout your career. Instant replay. What do you think about instant replay?
The best.
You like it?
Why not get it right? Well, I admit, when we were dumb, we'd sit there and say, he was safe, he was out, he was safe, he was out, and we never do, and we'd strangle our friends. Dodgers played a giant safe out, kill you. I love sports. I love baseball. I want to get it right. So I'm satisfied now that they signal it, check it. So, okay, it takes 2 minutes longer. It's baseball. The referees, the umpires, they love it.
Yeah?
Now, they're not, home plate umpires are not going to like it if a machine calls balls and strikes.
How do you feel about, would you like a machine calling balls and strikes?
If there were a way it could quickly aid the home plate umpire, in other words, if he had in his hand the same camera you see at home, Fox does a lot where they show you the strike zone through the hole at bat. Yep. If he could have that there and it would take an instant, he'd know it better. But what's wrong with getting it right? And what bugs me about baseball, each umpire has his own strike zone.
Bugs a lot of people about baseball.
Reggie Jackson once told me that every game he played, he always asked first thing, who's home plate umpire? And he knew the traits of every umpire.
Smart.
That's smart.
Yeah.
But it's also part of the intrigue of baseball.
Right.
So even the frailties are the wonderful things of sports.
It's good. You should be the commissioner of baseball. I think you'd be good at it.
I'm too old, but I'd like to be commissioner.
I wouldn't be good
at all the, I don't know how to fire people. I don't like being a boss.
Have you never fired a person?
No. But I'd be a good commissioner on how many days a guy should be suspended. But there's other things I don't do. I have a flip phone. I don't text. I like verbal communications. So there's a lot of the modern, I miss the typewriter. I don't have a computer.
You don't have a computer?
Do not. But I know it's the way of the world. I have 3 grown children. I have 2 teenage boys. They're both great baseball players. And they're on it all the time.
What do you think about athletes using Twitter and Instagram and social media?
It's like, why should athletes be different than the rest of the world? They use it because it's there. It's a means of communication. So there's nothing wrong with LeBron James tweeting out. And we get a chance to know. We know our athletes.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, we didn't know our athletes. You know what we saw? Before television, all we saw was the newspapers. I'd go to Dodger games. I'd go to Ebbets Field. The difference there, even young, my friends would want autographs. I would ask questions. I was at Jackie Robinson's first game, sitting up in the bleachers.
Wow.
I stood there, sat there in Ebbets Field, and Jackie Robinson ran onto the field. I was 12 years old. You never forget things like that. But I didn't know anything about Jackie Robinson's life other than what I read in the papers. But now we know everything.
Do you think we know too much?
Apparently these kids can't get enough.
Yeah.
They can't get enough of athletes. The athlete is supreme. The bad part about it is when a bad thing happens to an athlete and then, they get defamed, they harm themselves by actions off the field. But the thing I learned is, even though I live a lot in the past, I respect a lot about the future. Hip-hop stars. I'm curious about them. So I've learned a lot, and I don't make fun of the music my children listen to because I'm curious about what they're getting from it, like how they understand. I don't understand the lyrics. I'll tell you a funny thing happened. I went to see Hamilton.
Oh,
the hardest show to get in the world. Yeah. The night I was there, the San Antonio Spurs were there. About 8 of the Spurs were there. Touch me again.
So the Spurs were there.
Well, about 8 of them were there. The coach was there. Now I'll give you my review of Hamilton. Spectacular set. Beautiful music. Oh, the music just whiffs through the air. Acting is superb. And I sat there for 2 hours and 45 minutes. Didn't understand one word. Didn't understand one word. At the end, I was rooting for Burr. I didn't know what that. And now there's a book out explaining the words. Yeah. So what happened was the audience went crazy. They're jumping up and down. And what were they saying? The whip with the flop with the wing. And the hum to the hum to the hum, with the hum, with the hum, with the hum. So that, but I'm still curious about it. Yeah. So I don't dismiss it.
Right.
But I didn't understand it.
Put them in order of how much you like them. Baseball is first. What's next?
I'll tell you what's next. It's gonna hurt you.
Oh. Welcome back to Garbage Time with Katie Nolan and also Larry King. As you just saw, Larry is still a huge sports fan. Did you hear him say he was at Jackie Robinson's first game? That was in 1947. 69 years ago. Fives. Not only has Larry been a sports fan for the better part of a century, but he still follows all 4 major sports, and he knows his Unfortunately, he has some trouble determining which sports are his favorite. He just loves them all so much. So I grilled him until he answered. Rank sports. Rank the 4 major sports that in the order that you like.
Of course, there's different about each of them.
Yes.
Best thing about hockey, you cannot have an hour discussion about a game after the game. It goes too fast. So in other words, if you and I had dinner, we went to a Ranger game.
Sounds like a lovely evening.
Really? Mm-hmm. Go away. All right. Now we just seen a hockey game.
Yeah.
We're going to discuss it. Hey, that in the second period, remember that goalie when he kicked it out? Okay, now what? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's over so fast.
Yeah.
Women love it.
Yes, they do.
You know what I love about hockey? The sound of hockey. Go to a hockey game. Listen to the sound of the skates and the boards when they hit the boards. It's a frantic game. It's the most sold out game. By that I mean more seats are sold in hockey games than any other sport. Of course, the fans are totally loyal and a little crazy.
A little.
I love hockey. Basketball, it's ballet. These guys are unbelievable. The court should be larger, because when Naismith invented it, they were 5'10". Now they're 6'11". Football, what I love is, it's a great television sport. It was made for television.
Yep.
I used to broadcast Dolphin football. I did color on the unbeaten season. I'm a sports nut.
So
now,
baseball, hockey, football, basketball.
No, they're all equal.
No, they're not all equal.
Baseball and edge, hockey, football, basketball.
You're lying to my face. Put them in order of how much you like them. Baseball is first. What's next?
I'll tell you what's next. It's going to hurt you.
Oh.
The 7th game of the Stanley Cup or the NBA Finals that goes into overtime, especially hockey.
So hockey. Okay, cool.
Hockey,
baseball, hockey. I'm getting this out of you.
I'm getting it. Hockey overtime.
Yeah.
Because whoever scores wins.
Sudden death.
It's sudden death.
So baseball, hockey, basketball, football?
Yeah, about
Yeah.
that. But you wouldn't hurt me if you took me to the Super Bowl.
Right.
I've been
You
there.
love them all. They're like children. You love them all equally, but if you had to
Here's
admit it,
the
there is
best
a
thing
ranking.
about sports.
Okay.
The absolute best thing about sports. I have no idea who's going to win tonight.
It's fascinating to me that you just said the word hashtag and you knew what that. You didn't even
No,
pause.
hold it. I don't know what it means.
You don't know what a hashtag is.
No, these are things about what are you hiding your eyes? Things about the internet that just bug me.
Welcome back to Garbage Time. We're running out of time on our special episode of me and Larry King basically flirting for a half hour. He may be 82, but trust me, he's still got it. Larry is a fascinating guy and we had so much fun, but before I could let him leave, we had a few more topics to cover. His show, his Twitter account, hashtags, hot takes, Hoboken, and his line of sheets and pillowcases. Your interview show, Larry King Now.
It's going into its 5th year.
Wow.
So I get to do that. I do a podcast with my wife called Back and Forth with Sean and Larry King.
You're busy.
And I keep busy. We even have a line of sheets, pillowcases, and bedding
Oh, I know.
called Sleep Like a King.
Yeah.
I tell you what.
What?
Go to sleeplikeaking.com.
Okay.
Type in the hashtag King. You get 20% off. What are you laughing at?
This is a good pitch. It's fascinating to me that you just said the word hashtag and you knew what that. You didn't even pause.
Hold it. I don't know what it means.
You don't know what a hashtag is.
No, these are things about what are you hiding your eyes? Things about the internet that just bug me. I send out, it's my 2 cents.
Yeah.
Every Sunday night I send out 25 of them. I'll do things like, boy, has Lower Manhattan changed. I like dark studios. I have no desire to eat a turnip.
We call these hot takes.
It's my 2 cents.
It's a hot take.
It's just my own.
Okay, I'm sorry.
The only real Cheerio is Honey Nut. If Katie were a little older, and I were a little younger, and these men were not here, it would take us 9-10 hours to get out of this room.
9 or 10 hours? Woo! Hashtag wow, Larry. It's not your interview. Larry, thank you for being here. This was
Thank you,
really
Katie.
fascinating.
It's great working with you.
I have so much respect for you, and I can't
Anytime,
believe
thank
you
you.
came to do this show.
I was happy to do it.
I appreciate
Great to come.
it.
Like, you live where?
In Hoboken.
That's named after Phil Ho. Someone broke up with him and became a broken man. And he came back and he said, I'm broken. And Hoboken didn't sound right, so they just took the R out.
I thought it was a homeless guy named Ken.
Good.
Hobo Ken. Who's teaching who?
Katie, I'm going to teach you one lesson.
Okay.
Never top the Jew.
That's all the time we have this week, guys. Thank you so much to Larry King. He's wonderful, and I was honored to have him on the show. It was really so much fun. Next week, we are back, and we'll be in San Diego for the MLB All-Star Game. Very exciting. We'll have some special guests and a few surprises for you guys. Thanks for watching, everyone. Have a great week. Here's more garbage. Not if you were dating 3 other people at the time. You sound like you were kind of dating all those women at that
I wasn't
trial.
married. I wasn't married. People date.
You're right. It's usually still one at a time.
Well, you like one at a time, right?
Well, that's kind of how it goes.
That's the new rule?
The best out of context quote I think we'll ever get.
The only sport that drives me crazy is the Olympic sport, the curling.
It's the best sport. It's the king of sports. You think baseball's slow? Try cricket.
Baseball isn't slow.
No, okay, I'm sorry. I was just saying what people think.
You're getting on my nerves.